everybody. Welcome back. You're listening to the Ancient Health Podcast. My name is Courtney, and I have a beautiful guest on with us today. And I'm excited because I don't know that we've had a guest that is going to speak specifically on this topic that we've ever had on the show before. So this one you're going to want to tune into because you're going to get a completely different perspective of your health and how to create a balanced approach, being able to manage stress, inflammation, and ultimately setting yourself up for success, longevity, like long term, right? So today's wonderful guest is Dr. Shivani Gupta. I'm telling you, I'll just say she's pretty much done all of it. I'm going to go through some of her credentials, but if you can think of it, she's pretty much done it. She is a published author. She has her own podcast. She's an incredibly successful communicator. She has her own supplement line, and she's helping educate practitioners and people all over the world. So I'm thrilled to have her on because I know that she is going to communicate her field of expertise in such a great way. So Dr. Shivani, thank you so much for joining us. I can't wait to dive into today's subject.
For sure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is great. I'm personally very interested in Ayurveda. And this was something that my sister actually turned me on to a long time ago. So if you're listening and you're like, yeah, I've heard about this, like doshas and things like that, that's what we're going to talk about today. And we'll kind of dive into some other things too. But this is a very unique approach at looking at body types or kind of typing and understanding what your natural proclivities are and how you can set your specific body type up for success nutritionally. So why don't we start there? I would love for you to explain what Ayurveda is, maybe a little bit. We talk a lot about Chinese medicine, like Dr. Motley is obviously an expert in that area. But where does Ayurveda fit into the picture there?
Sure. So Ayurveda is this entire system of health, healing, and medicine from India that's over 5,000 years old. And it encompasses so much. So some of the main pillars are, we teach about circadian rhythm and living in rhythm with nature, and how that is the key to staying in flow with our health, as opposed to battling uphill with our health. Then we teach, like you mentioned, about the doshas, the Ayurvedic constitutions that are made up of the elements of the earth. So that really shows us that we're made up of fire, air, ether, water, and earth energies. And the combinations of that define how our dosha is at birth and then what it is now. And we can really navigate our life according to our dosha, which can really enhance our life experience. Then I teach about the sattvic diet, the diet from Ayurveda that shows us to eat this whole, nourished, balanced diet. It's a little more moderate than a lot of the diets right now that are kind of one extreme or another. So very much whole body, whole plant to get those benefits. And then we talk a lot about sleep and how the importance of sleep with circadian rhythm is key to health. And we also teach something called dinacharya, the daily self-care rituals that help you build a rhythm and circadian rhythm throughout your day. And then finally, there's the super herbs and super spices, which I love because I did a lot of study on turmeric and the spices out there and how those are the new superfoods that we can incorporate to really feel our best, to build vibrant health, to reduce that inflammation.
Oh, that's such a good breakdown. So I kind of want to deconstruct a little bit of what you just said. How would somebody know what dosha they are? Because it sounds like you can maybe change, like you can evolve and change into different ones over different seasons of your life. So maybe help us begin there, because I want for people to get in their minds maybe how this could apply to them so that they can use some of the principles to help make their decisions for their health.
Absolutely. So to understand your dosha, you take a dosha quiz. I have one on my website, but by taking a dosha quiz, you come to understand which of the three main doshas you are. Now, you're given a dosha at birth. That is assigned. It's like what you are based on the combination of your parents and when you're born. But over the course of our lives, different traumas, different huge life changes, big shifts can shift our dosha and really cause us to be imbalanced from our original dosha. And that's when I meet people who are like, I don't feel like myself. I don't have the same energy. I used to be a completely different person. And the goal is to help you work backwards to becoming that more aligned person. Ayurveda is there to show us how to bring body, mind, and spirit into alignment. And a big piece of that is knowing and understanding your dosha. So here's the breakdown. A Vata person, and you can usually self-prescribe and self-diagnose which dosha you are just by hearing the dosha explanations. But a Vata person has the temperament of air and ether. They have those traits. So imagine wind is always in motion. So a Vata person is going to be thin and wiry. They're going to be taller or shorter than their typical demographic. thin bones, small joints, long face, longer features. This person in their mind is going to be like an Energizer bunny. They can go 100 miles a minute. They talk 100 miles a minute. They're almost like ADD. They're all over the place with their thoughts, but that's because they've got this Vata wind energy moving within them. A Vata person also tends to have anxiety, poor disturbed sleep, poor disturbed digestion. This is someone who can also eat like a bird. So they can eat like little snacks throughout the day, their green juice and tea. They never have to sit down for a real meal. And normally once I say that, all the Vatas are like, oh gosh, you just defined me so well. How'd you know that? That's a template. That's a combination of energies from Ayurveda that defines a segment of our population. Then you have the Pitta people. A Pitta person is more medium bodied. They're going to have a tendency towards reddish skin, reddish hair, early graying. This is someone who's got a fiery personality because it's dominated by the energies of fire and water. So this is someone who's a go-getter, ambitious, driven, focused. They might be entrepreneurial. The Pitta person also tends to be, if they're in their imbalance, they tend to be jealous, angry, frustrated. They get hangry. So you really have to manage a Pitta person well, because otherwise they behave kind of like a nuclear reactor and explode. So I teach my Pitta crew, listen, you have a tendency towards inflammation, towards eating hot, spicy foods, oily foods. We need to mitigate that and really cool the system down so you can stay balanced and not be imbalanced. And then finally, you have kapha. And a kapha person is earth energy with water. So this is a person who's stronger. They can lift heavier. They're bigger boned. They have rounder features. They have curly, oilier hair. This is someone who's very one thing at a time. They speak about one thing at a time. They think one thought at a time. They go about their day. And when they finish their day and sit down, they're done. They're not going to get off the couch again. So they have a tendency towards the sluggish metabolism. They have a tendency towards a slower digestive system. So they have beautiful, long, profound sleep. They can sleep in and they get all their sleep, but we have to support their gut digestive fire and getting that system moving. And so I love knowing what is your primary dosha, what is your secondary dosha, where are you at right now, and then how do we get you back to that center and balanced and give you all the foods and tools and teas and drinks so that you can constantly intuitively calibrate with yourself all day and keep yourself supported.
Okay, that's a great breakdown. First of all, I just have to point out like how eloquently you say all the doshas, all the stuff. I am like the redneck South Carolina, kapha, pitta. And I'm like thinking, oh my gosh, that's probably so offensive the way that I'd even say these things. They just roll off your tongue in such a beautiful way. So I just had to point that out because I'm sure people listening are like, wow, that's so like, even the way you say dosha, I'm like, it sounds harsh when I say it. Anyway, that was a total tangent, but this is great information because I think that, hopefully if you're listening, you're like, maybe I kind of identify with a specific type. And so once you understand that, now I know that there are specific like nourishing foods and there's different spices and things like that, or maybe even, and I don't know this, so you can correct me, but there may be more susceptibilities for these specific types for, like you said, inflammation or, something else like getting burned out or maybe under eating, like things like that. So how would you advise somebody once they find kind of like where they maybe fit in, what choices they need to be looking at? Because that's what we're all looking. It's like this bio-individual assessment of your health. Like, how can I help my body specifically heal and live, in a state where it's thriving and not broken down based on the decisions I'm making every single day? So how would you walk somebody through that so that they kind of tailor their lifestyle to fit the dosha that is most fitting for them?
It's a great big question. So taking one step back from it, your dosha also ties to the seasons and to phases of life. So for example, throughout the year, pitta is going to be summer, right? Summer's fire, it's hot. So understanding your dosha in relation to your year is very important. So I like to customize my year based on my dosha. I'm a pitta. I drop my schedule down 20% in the summer. My whole team doesn't want it at all, but I tell them, look, if you want me to be healthy and happy and not be a burnt out entrepreneur, you've got to give me my summers as my creative time, just to relax a little, travel with my kids, stay cool, maybe go to mountainous places that are colder than where I am now, because that's how I refill my bucket and refill my cup. So each dosha has different tendencies. And we actually, through modern science, are going to prove this, I think, in the next couple of years. And I'm part of those teams that's going to standardize dosha quizzes as being part of how we study people, because there are certain health tendencies for each dosha. So if you look at the Vata person, that wind, earth energy, that energizer bunny, they're going to have a tendency towards anxiety, overwhelm, really poor sleep, which we know sleep is tied to inflammation and chronic metabolic disease, as well as so many other things, dementia, Alzheimer's. So sleep focus is a big theme for the Vata crew. Then we talk about digestion, that poor digestion. Healing the gut is so important. Looking at them as probably more tendency towards leaky gut in the Vata crew is very important. So we build certain protocols, healthy fats, 3 square meals a day, building a very strong rhythm and schedule into their lives so that they can stay on a track. So Vata has their own homework cut out for them. And then when it comes to Pitta, we just want to run like Ferraris on a racetrack, never want to slow down, never want to take a pit stop. So I teach the Pittas self-care as the rhythm. I teach a simple habit called tea time is me time. And that's my way to remind so many of us to just pause and take a minute and check in with yourself and hydrate with great adaptogenic herbs, but really give your mind a moment to ask itself, hey, how am I doing today? Am I going to eat today? Have I structured today so I actually will survive at the pace I'm going? Am I supporting my health? And so I love teaching the Pittas self-care from Ayurveda because it's detoxing, but it's also nourishing, because a Pitta will get inflamed. We will burn out. We will go too fast. We will stress the body too much and then get all the after effects of stress, which is also chronic metabolic disease, amongst other things. And will take a toll on our gut as well. So we'll just overwork. Then you have kapha. So kapha, because of that sluggish metabolism, actually shouldn't eat salads. They should eat warm foods that are easier to digest. So they have to think of themselves as having a slower digestive system and building different movements, like building movement into their life first thing in the morning, get their energy moving, get that sluggish metabolism moving more so that they don't have obesity, inflammation, and all the effects from that as well.
Okay, this is so incredible. And I'm so glad that you made these distinctions, because I have been saying this for months. I don't, for y'all listening, I've spoken a little bit on like Instagram and stuff, but I for sure am kapha, and I gave up salads probably 7 or 8 months ago, and it has changed my life. I could not digest a salad, guys. I mean, I looked 8 months pregnant after eating a salad, and I'm like, what is going on? Because here's the thing. I understand the whole concept of like, eat the rainbow, get all the nourishment. Literally cannot eat the rainbow. Like, my body loves rice soaked in bone broth and cooked. It likes vegetables that are cooked, that are like mush, and protein. And that's basically what, and sometimes like, I can do some, greens like spinach or something if it's like wilted down, but generally I don't even do it. And I'm telling you, my digestion is night and day difference. So eating for your type, like knowing these things about yourself, can radically change how you feel. And it's small tweaks. Like, it's not big things a lot of times, but in our minds, I think culturally, we just think, okay, well, we got to eat all the raw foods and we got to eat all the colorful kale salads. Meanwhile, like, your body cannot digest it well. Like, your digestion is slower. You maybe don't make enough enzymes, or even if there's too much stress in the body, like, a lot of times you're just not producing enough stomach acid and enzymes to start breaking that stuff down. So if you're eating all of these really healthy foods and all this produce and you feel terrible, definitely try and switch that up. Cook your vegetables. I love Kitchari was one of the things that I know is an Ayurvedic dish, and I started making that probably in the fall last year. And my kids love that one too. Nice. But and I can actually let you explain it, because you probably have a lot more to say about Kitchari, but it's so healing because of the turmeric that's in it as well. So I want to let you take the stage on this, because I know you probably have so much, but that's been my personal experience. And I don't think I realized that I was that type. But it makes sense now that you're explaining all of it, that this would be something that my body naturally is inclined to like.
Right. You know, what's interesting is even the Vata crew needs to be careful with salad. Now that you say that, because if we are eating wrong for our dosha type, we're not supporting ourselves. We're going to stay chronically imbalanced, chronically frustrated. Maybe our bodies aren't going to do what they want to do. Now I'm speaking so much on perimenopause and menopause. And I think a big reason why we have so many issues is we're just hitting our half decades and decades so hard, imbalanced. And then the body's like, no, I don't support this anymore. I'm sorry. I'm not going to give you what you want. And so we're having to recalibrate so much. But yes, Kitchari is a very popular dish out of Ayurveda. It's a simple porridge that you make with basmati rice and split yellow lentils. You can use an Instapot or any pressure cooker to make it. And it involves very simple spices, just cumin seeds, maybe a little bit of hing. That's a beautiful spice we use in Ayurveda that's so digestive, supportive, a little bit of turmeric, some salt. But that dish is like the ultimate gut reset. And so in Ayurveda, we always want everyone to do either a big 21-day detox annually, like your big oil change for your car, or a seasonal detox at the intersection of seasons. So where spring meets summer, where summer meets fall. Those are very powerful times to detox, especially based on your dosha. So let's say you are a pitta dosha going into the summer. Detoxing beforehand lets you experience that seasonal change in a more cool, calm, and collected way. And then afterwards, you can kind of undo the exacerbations that happen due to your own dosha, because you get exacerbated if it's too much of your dosha in a season. Like in winter, when you hibernate as a kapha and you come out of kapha season, it's so important post-winter to do that detox, to be supported and not carrying the lethargic sluggishness and slowness of your winter season going forward. But yes, Kitchari and all these things are part of any beautiful detox protocol. And we add things to that, like tongue scraping and oil pulling and really supporting the detoxification pathways while healing the gut and nourishing. So it's both together.
That's so great. I think maybe we'll put the recipe, guys, in the show notes for you because, Kitchari is easy to make. I was just thinking, like, now I'm kind of craving it, but it's going to be probably like 95 degrees this week in South Carolina. So I don't know if it's like a lot of hot, meals. But what you talked about, this is what got me turned on to it. My sister was like, Court, because I was having all these gut issues. She was like, you should do a Kitchari cleanse. So for like 2 weeks, that's all I had was just water. And then I would have like teas and a little bit of broth and Kitchari. And that was it. Like I had like some protein that I added in there, but, it was so good. I'm telling you, it really does. Like not only it's so easy and gentle on the gut, and it's giving you nourishment so that you're not adding for somebody that like can't fast yet because they're metabolically like not set up for that. It adds more stress. This is so incredible because it's nourishing and filling, but it's gentle and it's easy and it allows your gut to rest. It doesn't have to overwork and it tastes really good. Like the spices in there are incredible. My kids will eat it, no problem. And that's saying a lot because even though I force them to eat healthy all the time, they're still picky as all get out. So I'm telling you, it will be, it's like you have to order some of the stuff. You can't find everything at the grocery store, but you can buy Kitchari seasoning mix is what I did. I think I got it from like, I don't know, Banyan Botanicals or something. I feel like is maybe, and I don't know if they're the greatest brand. So maybe you have a better recommendation. But so, okay, this is a great segue into turmeric. Now, you guys were probably familiar with turmeric. It's like the powder that stains everything in your kitchen, but we all know and love it for its anti-inflammatory properties and its incredible ability to help support the gut and gut healing. So you're an absolute expert on turmeric and there's a lot out there. There's so many turmeric products now. So I would love for you to debunk the things that people will hear about. Well, it's got to be in a fat and you got to have black pepper and you got to like, what is it about turmeric that is the active component we need to be looking for? And what's the best delivery mechanism to get it into our body so it's the most bioavailable?
Turmeric is one of my favorite plants on earth. I studied it in my master's degree. I was sitting in herbology class. And as I was sitting there, every benefit they explained about turmeric, I thought, that's my whole family history. Like it would have helped all of us. I wouldn't have lost my grandparents the way I did. The diabetes wouldn't be as rampant in the world. Like, wow, turmeric can do so much. So can ginger, so can cumin, so can so many of the other super herbs out of Ayurveda. But turmeric is the one that I zeroed in on because I realized if it is such a powerhouse, it could really be that tool in our toolkit that we use that helps us win at longevity and our health goals. So turmeric is anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal. It's also very powerful for longevity. So we've seen science where it can increase life expectancy up to 26%, which sounds like a lot, but it's just there to be that tool that significantly reduces inflammation. So we have over 10,000 scientific studies that prove how effective curcumin from turmeric is at reducing inflammation. And what most people don't realize is out of the entire turmeric plant, only 3% is the curcuminoids. And out of those 3 curcuminoids, the one curcumin is the most effective at reducing inflammation. And so when I learned that, I was like, okay, well, why aren't we all just taking potent curcumin? This should be pretty easy. But then I realized in the supplement industry, there's a whole lot of difference around quality, production, testing, how people go about creating things. And I was inspired to go out there and create my own. And I made one fully focused on can we shift how orthopedics, rheumatology, and Western medicine approaches our pain and inflammation. Because whenever I got hurt, I'd go to the doctor, they'd give me NSAIDs and different solutions, but then I'd get stomach aches or I'd get side effects. And I thought, well, why can't we lean on turmeric from Ayurveda to solve the problem? But instead of side effects, we're healing ourselves at the root cause. So to me, turmeric, when given in the right form, in the right dosage, can drive such a powerful result, not just for our joint pain and any pains and aches we have in the body, or as a powerful immune system, which is how I also use it for myself, but it can also be this powerful preventive that we use. And that's why I'm so passionate about it.
Okay, that's so great. It's funny because that was the first thing I gave my daughter. So my middle child sprained her ACL. She's been on crutches. This just happened the last 2 weeks. And that was the first thing that came to mind was I need to get her on some turmeric. And so, because this is my medicine cabinet is just full of herbs and all the stuff. Fortunately, that was one to have. So I do think if you're listening, that is one always for pain and inflammation, even if it's just acute. That is a go-to that just systemically, across the board, it's going to be super helpful. And we know how effective it is, just like you said. So you mentioned the, curcumin being the compound within turmeric that is so potent and anti-inflammatory. I have seen and heard that in order for that to be absorbed and utilized by the body, something like black pepper can assist in kind of that assimilation and uptake and usage of it. Is that true? Do you find that that's something that's important to have in a formulation with a turmeric supplement?
Yes, absolutely. So we have science that shows that black pepper increases the absorption by 2,000%. Also, fatty acids or taking a healthy fat with your turmeric will increase that absorption. What's interesting is I worked at a lab when I was 16 years old where the scientists discovered that it was black pepper that increased the absorption. But if you look back into the Indian kitchen, we have a spice box that we all use every night in our cooking. And it has garam masala, which has black pepper in it. It has turmeric, cumin, coriander. So there's this intelligence to using plant medicine consistently in our daily lives and having the cumulative effect that has a lot of benefits. And then there's also the science that's showing that using extract with whole turmeric is also very beneficial. So I like using both. I like incorporating it in my food and lifestyle, which is always whole plant. And then also taking the extract because we know nowadays we're so inflamed from stress, from processed foods, from external factors that the body is receiving as assault or outside stuff that it doesn't want. And so all of a sudden, to me, taking turmeric is like that perfect Swiss Army knife that does so much and keeps me protected.
That's great. I love a good Swiss Army knife, tool, supplement, because there's so many things that we could all do and have and use, but it doesn't mean that we need to use all of them. But I think turmeric is one of those that even for children, like my daughter, I didn't even think twice. I was like, this is something I would cook with. This is something that was very easy. I don't have to worry, am I overdosing her on this or is it going to create a deficiency? Is there any type of synergistic antagonistic relationships where I'm depleting other things and using it? So I find that this is a really helpful supplement to have on hand, and also just something that you can have in your kitchen, buying fresh and using to cook with. So it makes me think, what are the other spices that you like specifically outside of turmeric to keep in your kitchen? Because I think a lot of us are just not familiar. I mean, we're in like American culture, like we're just like salt, pepper, like garlic. It's so basic, and we don't utilize a lot of these spices. And I think that, we see the byproduct of that not being a part of our culture, because we do. I mean, obviously the food is terrible on top of that, just mainstream food, but we also lack some of that cultural influence of cooking with some of these things, because they really do, even in small quantities, they're very, very effective. So what are maybe like your top 3 to 5 that you feel like, yes, these are always in my house. They're always in the rotations with meals, because I think this may help me broaden my horizons, my culinary horizons.
Yeah, it's funny, when I visit my friends, I do see it's like garlic, basil, oregano. And I'm like,
yeah,
is that the spice cabinet? I have like 3 different spice cabinets. I've got like the Indian one. I've got my Western one with every Western spice. Because if I am making Mexican or Italian, I'm going to use like 18 spices to reach the flavor profile that I want to see. And then we have like our backup, which in an Indian household, I buy like 3 pounds of turmeric at a time, 3 pounds of cumin before we grind it, or our corianders, and we hand grind them at home, so that when they're ground spices, they're fresh and their benefits are being released right in that moment. So there's this obsession with it. But if you think about it, in modern day times, we do take our morning smoothie and we put a lot of stuff in there to achieve that superfood goal. And so my invitation to everyone is just open your mind to the fact that the spices are the superfoods. And so just buying turmeric powder and incorporating it more into your life with black pepper is going to have real benefits. Ginger is a sister to turmeric. So ginger lemon tea in the morning is a very simple self-care habit that's going to ignite the digestive fire. It's going to support you to have gastroprotective effects. It's alkalizing. So I love that as a morning health habit, or just incorporating more ginger into your food overall. Then we love cumin seeds. So as the world plays with ideas around veganism, vegetarianism, eating more legumes and beans, we're like the queen and kings of legumes and beans in India. We've cooked them for thousands of years. Many Indians are vegetarian, maybe half the population at this point. And so we use cumin seeds and a spice called hing, or asafoetida, as the base of our cooking. So you can take oil, heat it up. You would add a sprinkling of your cumin seeds, like a pinch of cumin seeds, the whole form of the seed, and then a pinch of hing. Hing is a very stinky spice, but the two are so powerful as a pre-digestive support when you go to eat those beans. So people say they can't digest beans. I'm like, you're just not cooking them right. And if a non-Indian cooks beans, I'm like, I'm not touching that. That's going to hurt. I only eat beans if they've been cooked in those 2 spices. And if I'm ever going to reheat leftover beans, I'll heat that concoction again, put the beans in there to heat it, and then serve it to again support the digestion of those beans. And then my last favorite, I would say, is coriander, cilantro, or mint. Both are very beneficial. They have a cooling effect on the pitta dosha, so I need them in my life. But cilantro is a detoxer and detoxes heavy metals out of our body. So it's really cool how just different herbs and plants can create such a healing effect and support us throughout our health journey.
This is so valuable. First of all, I just need to come over and take like a cooking class or something, because I for sure, I know, I just need to really commit to, because I actually do enjoy it. And honestly, the aromatic experience when you are cooking with these, it's unbelievable. It's like, oh my gosh, like that you can just smell, like it's so heavenly. And honestly, like that part of the cooking experience does, I mean, that's where digestion begins. A lot of times is smelling it, because it's now triggering the production of enzymes that are going to be needed to digest your food. So we're just so fast paced. And I feel like a lot of times we just skip over them, or we buy things that already have spices packed into them. So they're not as fresh, or the quality is probably somewhat compromised. So this is really interesting. And I think it does go a really long way. I love that you say that it's like the ultimate superfood. Like it's, we're always looking for biohacking. Like that's such a trendy thing right now. But this is a very easy way to kind of biohack your nutrition, because if you just buy some of these spices and herbs, and I mean, honestly, I think that the easiest thing to do is if you're making like rice, like you can make rice and cook and add in some spices with butter and broth and things like that. And I mean, it pretty much like you can't like mess it up. Like maybe it's a little bit like maybe you go a little overboard, but I feel like That's like the common vehicle for me to test a spice if I like it. I just add it to like a rice dish.
Yeah, it's easier. It's way easier. You can add cumin that way. You can add ghee. You can add turmeric to rice. You can add a lot of things into the rice itself.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So this is great. I love talking about the nutrition. Now, you did mention some other tools, like some habits and routines that can be done alongside with some of the nutrition. And so I want to talk about like the coconut oil pulling and the tongue scraping. Those ones aren't as common. We don't talk about those. I mean, we talk about like breath work and, just other types of like meditation. Those are very mainstream too. But what are some of your favorite lifestyle elements or tools that you bring in alongside of the nutritional practices that you feel support that balancing of your body?
Sure. So in Ayurveda, we teach something called dinacharya, the daily self-care rituals that build this rhythm throughout your life. And I love people understanding that all these tools come from Ayurveda. Circadian rhythm, circadian clock, chronobiology is from ancient Ayurvedic wisdom. So is tongue scraping and oil pulling. So in the morning, we encourage everyone, after you brush your teeth, to do your tongue scraping, which just means buy a copper tongue scraper, or if you're high copper, you can do stainless steel. And you gently scrape the tongue 7 to 14 times. Don't go too high or you will gag yourself. But as you scrape the tongue, what you're doing is you're removing this white film that accumulates on all of our tongues. That white film is just ama, or toxins in the body. In Ayurveda, we teach that we have this accumulation of toxins that happens as a byproduct of not necessarily being able to digest all the foods we consume, or maybe our digestive fire isn't strong enough. And so the tongue reflects all the organs of the body, just like in reflexology, all of the organs of the body are reflected on the bottom of our feet. And so by scraping the tongue, you're going to massage all the organs of the body, gently detox them, and remove that ama toxin film. So I love tongue scraping as like the free, easiest, fastest Ayurveda hack that there is that supports you in detoxing year round. So when you do go to detox, you're already like halfway there because you're doing the work on a daily basis. And that has this small cumulative effect throughout the year. And then the second one is oil pulling. And so oil pulling just means taking 2 tablespoons of oil, any food grade organic oil. So it could be sesame oil, which we love in Ayurveda. That's our king of oils because it's antibacterial and has so many beneficial properties, vitamin E and different things like that. But you can also take coconut oil or any food grade oil that you like the taste of, so that you're compliant with the health habit. I believe in compliance over perfection. And so when you take this oil and put it in your mouth, you're just going to let it sit there and move it around for 5 to 20 minutes. Now that sounds like a long time, but you could practice your deep breathing. You could take a shower, make your morning coffee. It's like one of those multitasking self-care habits. So I like that about it. And what you're going to do, you'll swish it through your gums, you'll move it through your teeth, and you're going to be accumulating, again, all the toxins that have collected in the mouth. And when you spit it out in the trash, not the shower, the sink, or your toilet, because you will clog the pipes of your home. But when you spit it out, what you're doing is you're collecting all this bacteria toxins. And we know oral microbiome is tied to gut microbiome. We know the gut microbiome starts here. And we know oral microbiomes tied to heart health and so much more. So I love it as that, again, beautiful detox tool that you do every day and supports you in the long run.
So good. I'm laughing because this is so funny. It's probably gross, but when I first started coconut oil pulling, this was years ago, guys, but I was trying to figure out when the appropriate time would be to do this because I had little kids at the time. And I'm like, I just felt like every time I kept trying to do it, I was just like, oh, like, I'm like, I can't yell at you. It was not working. So the ideal time ended up being my car ride to the gym. And at that point in time, the only time I could go to the gym was when everybody's still sleeping. So I would do this 5:30 a.m. workout. So I would the car ride's like 15 minutes to the gym, and I would put the oil in my mouth, get in the car, and I would just swish it the whole time I would drive. But then, I'd get in the parking lot and I'd have to spit the oil out in the parking lot. And there's all these people coming into the gym first thing in the morning. And I'm like, I don't even want to ask. Like, I don't even want to explain what I'm doing, but I would just spit in the parking lot in the pitch black dark. And I was like, this is the weirdest thing. I'm like, I'm sure somebody saw me at some point because I did it very routinely for a long time. But, outside of that, which was, I need to find another way to incorporate that because I've kind of gotten away from that from a bit. But the tongue scraping,
yeah,
hands down, first thing I do every single morning.
Right.
It's so satisfying.
Yeah.
I feel like I can do nothing until I tongue scrape. And actually for the kids too, getting them in that rhythm, I just feel like my mouth is so much cleaner because of that practice. And it's so simple. And you can get a tongue scraper, you can order one on Amazon. Like that is such an inexpensive tool that you can invest in and get one for your spouse, your kids, whatever. But I think it goes a really long way. Like you said, digestion begins the microbiome. There is an oral biome. And so everything that's in the oral biome is affecting everything south of it. And so really protecting. We've had lots of guests that have talked about how important it is. But that is a very simple practice I feel like everybody should be doing.
Right. It's simple.
So good. Okay. So I would love for you to kind of bring us, the last piece of this puzzle that I'm seeing that's like kind of the pillars of Ayurveda is that circadian rhythm and sleep portion. So I'd love to get your perspective on this because there's a lot to be said about sleep. A lot of people, talking about different strategies, but I'd love to know how this fits into the picture of Ayurveda and balancing the body from that perspective.
So it's interesting. There are so many people teaching about sleep, and I'm obsessed with sleep and sleep hygiene and sleep pressure and all those rituals and blackout curtains. That's all the modern study that we've done. Ancient Ayurveda said that when we sleep, there's different times of day associated with each dosha, and 10 to 2 on the circadian clock is the pitta time of day. And so when you look at that being pitta, during the day when it's 10 to 2, we're most supported in digestion. So we're meant to eat our biggest meal of the day, absorb our superfoods in that 10 to 2 window. So think high noon, high sun. In the same way, at night, 10 to 2 on the clock is when the body's going to detox. And so I think of 10 to 2 as the most important time that you sleep. It's twice as important than all the other hours that you sleep. And nowadays, if you look at the statistics, the average American is sleeping at 11:19 p.m. according to Fitbit's data, but we're definitely sleeping way later than we should. And we have a lot of reasons for it. As moms, we're like, I just need to take a minute for myself. Or we've got work to do and we're pushing into the late hours with work. But that pitta time is when the pitta fires are going to come out and clean and clear the glymphatic system, where we can hold up to 3 pounds of waste, the digestive system, all the organs of the body. When it comes to ama and toxins, that's when we clean and clear lymphatic and inflammation. So if we're not going to honor that, we're never going to clear the lymphatic system or the inflammation in our body. And thus, we're never going to be able to actually have true preventive health. So what I love about Ayurveda, it's a sister science to yoga. It encompasses pranayama and meditation. It encompasses this idea of we can build vibrant health, but honoring sleep is the most important way to do it. So we teach that going to bed by 10 o'clock is key. And before bed, doing a lot of these Ayurvedic self-care rituals is the perfect way to tee your body up for sleep. So doing dry brushing, doing Abhyang massage, any of these different self-care tools from Ayurveda will detox and support the body to be rested and nurtured and relaxed, which will help you get better sleep. And I also believe in getting there with adaptogens. So having like a deep sleep tea or any tea that's good for you is going to hydrate the system, hydrate the tissues before bed. The adaptogens will help clear the mind and rest the digestive system as well. And then the last piece there is whatever you eat at night is what you are going to chew on all night long. And so Ayurveda teaches us that whatever we're consuming in our minds is what we're going to be working on all through the night. And that's the answers we're going to get in the morning. So I teach everyone, no TV in your bedroom. Really, that last thing we should do is consume things that are spiritual or wisdom, things that are good for us, so that that's what we're working on throughout the night before we start the next day.
Such good advice. And I fully agree that not having a television in the bedroom is like the greatest upgrade to your sleep. I mean, I even if the hours are a little bit less, if I am not on devices or watch any TV, still recover better. Even if even if the window was a little bit tighter or more compromised, I still do better than if I had watched an hour's worth of TV and gone to bed by 10 p.m.
Right.
It makes a huge difference. I'm still like trying to process the whole lymphatics, the 3 pounds of like fluid. That's like wild to me. I mean, that's how important like just even that window of time is. Like, obviously getting sleep start to finish is good, but that window where your lymphatic system, your brain is active, it's filing away, it's detoxing, it's wringing itself out essentially, like that's huge. I mean, you start chipping away or kind of working in a deficit day after day after day, you can really see how that could probably lend itself to more inflammatory conditions, anxiety, brain fog, cortisol disruption, hormone imbalances, like across the board, that's going to affect everything.
Exactly. And that's why I focus on sleep so much. And as a busy mom, I just move all the self-care rituals I talked about into the evening. And so I'll block that last 30, 45 minutes before bed just to do all the self-care rituals. And I'll kick it off with tea, and then I'll go into the rest of them. And then I'm fully prepared for this perfect night's sleep. And those are the days when I get the best sleep.
So good. What was the thing you said earlier? It was like, the tea is for me, or like some like,
tea time is me time.
Tea time is me time.
I have this like 6 times a day, and it's like my savior. As a mom, as an entrepreneur, building an impact-driven business, like the thing that keeps me alive is tea time is me time.
I love that it's like my beloved little tea, and you're just like holding it like it's your infant child. I feel the same way. How do we feel about reishi? Because that's what I drink like all day. I drink like a mushroom, elixir, but I drink it all day. I'm like, but it is my lifeline.
Yeah. I mean, we each have the thing that resonates with our body, most likely tied directly to our own dosha, because intuitively we're going to keep reaching for that thing that we need most. For me, I love green jasmine tea. I'm obsessed. So I build teas on top of it that are beneficial. I love adaptogens like ashwagandha and brahmi, thavari. They each have such powerhouse benefits for perimenopause, menopause, and just less anxiety in the brain so we can focus. And so I really build around those things and try to see how can you get a functional tea that delivers a result using plant medicine like you're talking about. So there's so much magic there, and the body receives that plant medicine so well and the plant benefits so well. And so I love studying that and then sharing that with the world.
You do such a great job, and you're inspiring me in so many ways. I mean, one, I need to learn how to pronounce these words better, but also I am going to get some new herbs and spices, and I will start using them because I'm inspired to upgrade that. And there's a lot of other things that, it's like, this is so simple. Why am I not using them? So now it's top of mind. I'm going to do it. You're just a wealth of knowledge. I mean, there's so many things we could talk about, but I think that this is such a good conversation because I hope that if you're listening, you were able to take some of the practical handles away from this. You could kind of understand what we broke down and deconstructed this approach to healing and supporting your body, but then have some things that you can use in your day-to-day life that are based on your natural kind of your bent proclivities and like the things that are supportive to you. So hopefully some of these tools are resonating and they're going to be helpful for you in the future. I love that we've covered so many different things, but it's helped me out. So I know it's got to be helping our listeners. I would love, Dr. Shivani, if you would give us the rundown for your podcast, your books, like all of your resources.
Sure. So my website is my name, shivanigupta.com, SHIVANIGUPTA. And then I'm at dr.shivanigupta on Instagram. I have a YouTube channel with lots of videos that are educational and lots of interviews. I have the Fusionary Health podcast where I love sharing my interviews with practitioners where we dig into all these topics that I'm into. I have a new TV show in Atlanta called The Vibrant Health with Dr. Shivani show that's syndicating nationally, which is very exciting. And then a Hay House book coming out in January 2026 on inflammation and Ayurveda. And then my cookbook, The Dosha Quiz, everything you might be looking for, and my 7-day inflammation challenge is on my website, shivanigupta.com.
And you're just a mom slaying it in the kitchen every day. So, I mean, is there anything you don't do? This is unbelievable. I'm like, where does she come up? And you look beautiful. I mean, I look like I've, run through a rainstorm, but it's, you're just an absolute delight. I have enjoyed so much having this conversation with you. And I'm so excited for all the things coming in the future. I know that you're just doing a great work in the space and you're equipping us and teaching us. And I'm grateful for your time and that you would share with us today. Guys, we're going to drop everything in the show notes for you as usual. Make sure you check her out, her supplement line. She's got so many great resources that you can tap into. The podcast, that's always my favorite platform. So I'm excited I've listened to some of your podcasts, but I know you always have great conversations with incredible guest speakers. So guys, thank you for joining us on today's episode. If you liked it, share it with a friend, drop us a comment. You can DM me or over at the Health Institute. We love to hear from you and get your feedback, know how these conversations are supporting you. We will see you guys on the next episode. Dr. Shivani, thank you so much for being here.